So let me kind of kick off each grade level and then you can add to it. David leads our college recruiting team. That is actually his job with us. That is his lead job. We all do a lot of jobs, but that's his primary job. What I want to say is this, okay? If you want to play ball in college at a mid-major or high major level, which there's plenty of levels below that that are also great that pay for college and all that good stuff. But a lot of people, at least when they're younger, they're really dreaming. They're like, hey, I want to be a mid-major, high major college basketball player. I want to help use our experience to help you understand what needs to happen at each step of the way. Okay. So we're going to start this at 6th grade. And the first thing you got to realize is that you got to play up 2 years. All right. You can't play your grade and you can't even play up 1 year. You got to play up 2 years and get accustomed to that atmosphere. And in fact, your goal is going to be to get to the point where you're not just accustomed to that atmosphere, but you're standing out. Okay. And then David, I mentioned on here as a note, like some regional insider exposure events or other types of things. Just to get used to it. You want to comment about what that looks like?
Hey guys. Lynn hit on a few things there. Yeah, you guys need to get to some individual camps. So what that does is put you in a service. So some people did the NYG hoops thing up in Pennsylvania. Some people did it in Winston-Salem. You go into a database that then pulls college coaches that they pay for the service. So when you go to a insider exposure, you go to a EGB All-American, you go to Rising Blue Star, you go to NYG Hoops, you get put into a database. And from that database, colleges pay for, like Louisville pays me. They want me to know who the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are that they need to be looking at when they hit 9th grade. Or if they're really special, who do they need to talk to? So like those individual events will get you there, but do not fall into the trap of going to places that don't have a service. So if you go to, there's one in North Carolina that doesn't have an NCAA scouting service. They're just taking your money and you're playing in front of them. So make sure you know what event you're going to and if it's a pro or con, pros and cons for it. And then just because you go to those events doesn't mean you're going to see something immediately on social media. Doesn't mean you're going to immediately see something on Twitter or anything like that. For instance, last year, after the PA event, the next day from that person saying something to one college coach, Lynn can actually attest that there was like 5 BCS schools showed up the next day to the game. Yeah. So that, that's kind of how it works. People call and ask about events in that part. I think I went down a little bit long rabbit hole on that.
Yeah, we'll come back. So so I did this by grade. So at 6th grade, folks, if you're young like that, the key thing is this. You just need to put your daughters in some of those that are the real ones so they just get used to the atmosphere. They don't need to do well. They don't need to go there to prove anything. They need to go there to get used to the atmosphere, to feel it, touch it, see it, smell it, and get in the fire, right? Because really, they're not looking at 6th grade. They're going to put you in the database, like David said, but you're just there to get used to it, okay? So we'll get some information on those. One of the questions is, what's a good camp? And we'll definitely circle back. Any of the insider exposure stuff is good. Any of the New York Hoop Group stuff is good, but there's probably 10 per year. And so we'll make sure for the younger teams, we let you know which 10 those are that really have legit roots into NCAA scouting. Let's talk about the next year, the 7th grade year. So in 7th grade, again, going back to item number 1, is that you need to play up 2 years if you're really legitimately going to try to be a college recruitable, mid-major, high-level athlete. 9th graders can, I know you don't have to do it. I'm just saying, in a perfect world, that would be a great situation, right? So, and you can comment, just kind of get to a good stopping point. But you can play as a seventh grader on an eighth grade team, and that eighth grade team can go and play in a place where it's a live event, and they have a bunch of other eighth grade teams playing in the ninth grade division, right? Or you could be a seventh grader playing up on a ninth grade team if you're that good. I mean, one of the things that FBC really believes in is identifying super young talent and pushing them up. We have a couple of teams, the whole team plays up a year or two, but you don't want to play your grade level and blend. That's or even be slightly better than your peers at your grade level if you're seeking to be a Division I college recruitable kid. You've got to push yourself beyond that. And then I think the last thing I'll say, and I'll turn it back to David on the seventh grade stuff, is that, again, part of this is getting used to that atmosphere. Like it's a real shock sometimes for kids to be playing basketball and they try and look over there and there's 25 college coaches that they see on TV. So just getting used to playing in that environment where those coaches are there is a big part of making it so that these kids can just become used to that. David, what you want to add to that?
I mean, Lynn is right, but if you're going to play up, you need to dominate your age group when you play there. If you're not dominating your age group, then you don't need to be pushing up. You need to be dominating your age group and doing that over and over again. But yes, if you are one of the top dominating your seventh grade, you should be playing up at least one or two age groups. That is correct.
All right, so that's kind of seventh grade. Before I move to eighth grade, let me say this. There are some coaches that will say, we'd rather go play, for example, in the NTBA Nationals at Myrtle Beach versus go play in the ATL SummerSlam, which is an NCAA certified event in Atlanta, happening on the same weekend. The NTBA Nationals has nothing to do with NCAA scouting or recruiting. So you might go to a big event at a really fun vacation-like destination, have a great experience for the kids. But if you are laser focused on wanting to get your kids recruited in college, you need to get them playing against other kids competing to play ball in college as soon as you can. So that's where I wanted to kind of go with that. It's just seventh grade, don't waste your time doing stuff that doesn't matter. It's a big deal. Eighth grade, you start to get into this thing around, okay, you're still trying to play up, which means now you might be playing on 9th, you might be playing on 10th. As David said, if your team can't win playing your grade level, then you got a different problem. But let's assume that you really have some special skills and special team, and you go enter the courts, then you enter these tournaments. When we play in insider exposure or war games or a handful of other events that we have deep relationships with the tournament directors and the tournament hosts, there is a thing as good courts versus bad courts. For those of you that have been doing this for a while, you know, you can go to a Run for the Roses tournament and you can real easily get put on court 76B in the livestock annex section of the building, and there might be one college coach watching 12 games. That's the only one over there. Versus if you're on court 3 and there's 50, 60, 70 college coaches on every floor. You want to play in an environment where there's a strategic thought process about your team at least having the opportunity at some point to play on the same court with the older kids, beside the older kids, across caddy corner to the older kids. And then we strategically tell the college coaches that we know are watching our older kids, hey, after that game, we'd love for you to take a 5-minute look at what's going to be right over your shoulder or right across the way. So playing in the right places, starting at 8th grade, is a really big deal. Okay. And I even put in here, email Coach Kent. If you're one of our coaches and you're scheduling stuff, talk to Coach Kent about where you want to play, why you want to play there, and what you're trying to accomplish, because we have spent so many times playing places that didn't make any sense. I personally have played in places that seemed so glamorous, but had zero recruiting outcomes, and then played in places that are just a pure dump and had half the team get offers. So anything else you want to add to that for 8th grade year, David?
Yes, and I was trying to read this with a little blurb, but in 8th grade, everyone in 8th grade can start going to elite camps. You can go to any elite camp you want. If you're good enough, they're gonna see you. And just get in the mindset of going there, learning how to play at an elite camp and how to stand out at an elite camp. Because when you get to 9th, 10th, and 11th, I'm not going to tell Mary Lou, hey, you need to go to this camp. Well, I'm way more strategic on who to ask. And then going back to the conversations, it's a little bit more of, hey, you want to talk to Kate Sears, Taylor Barner, and some of our other top players. Hey, I'm going to ask my coach. If they don't see your orange shirt over there, like, we're going to have a problem. And that's what your older kids help your younger kids. So,
Yes. So, hey, David, on the note, and I put this on here, so just so everybody knows, if 8th grade, your player, you as a player are having a great year and you're really making noise on your team, we have 3 or 4 people that work on our recruiting team. David is the lead recruiter, but we also have Andy. We also have myself that can help. We have Rashawn, and we also have another person that's going to be involved starting next week. We're going to have a person dedicated to each person. So if you're Susie Q and you're 8th grader and you're really starting to have some success on a regular basis, you're going to have a lead recruiting person that will be assigned to you. And that person's not only going to help you, know with your coach when, where to play, but they're also going to start to establish calls for you, right? ABC University coach wants to talk to you. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to text them, blah, 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 at this day, at this time. And they're going to almost be like we're going to act as almost like your secretary or your day planner. And so when we give you a time and a place or who to call and talk to, we're going to prepare you for that call. We're going to tell you what they want to talk about. And when you get done with that call, you're going to actually have a debrief afterwards and tell us, okay, how did the call go? What did you talk to them about? And we log all of that information. That's part of this learning to get recruited, right? And you'll actually keep a log. You'll begin to keep a log of all these calls and who you talk to and what you talk to them about, all right? So that starts at 8th grade. All right. It might not start at 8th grade for everybody, but it can start at 8th grade for some. So 9th grade through 11th grade, same kind of concepts. When we play live events, we want to play on good courts. Got to play at the right places because we want to be on good courts. Okay. That's a no-brainer. We definitely, at this point, when you're in high school, we want to note all of your calls. We want to know every coach you're talking to, what you talk about, when did you talk to them, what kinds of things did they share with you, what did you share with them? And then we can coach you as the player. All right, next time you talk to them, here's some other things you might want to ask them about, right? And then we can set a time to follow up with the schools, make sure that they set the next call, make sure the underclassmen day visits happen. We can make sure the elite camp visits happen. This is a very, very thorough process. Anything else you want to add, David, that we need to make sure everybody's aware of for 9th through 11th grade as far as this recruiting stuff goes?
Yes. So this is for you parents, and I need you guys to listen to this. I consider this a race, either horse or car race, whatever. Some people have Lamborghinis, some people have Pintos. Some people going to get to the finish line at 100 and 200 miles an hour. Other ones are going to put across at 70 miles an hour. But everyone's going to run their own race. So if one kid's got momentum and they're getting 10, 15 offers, like, you just got to make sure that you're having conversations. Like, if you're not getting something and you feel like you're not there, ask someone, ask me, and figure out why that is. If you're not there yet, you're not there. If you're 6'5" in the 3rd grade, there's some college coaches that want to talk to you. If you're 5'5", you're probably going to have conversations more in your junior and senior year. And if you're not developed, as in like still lanky, not strong, like that stuff feeds into it. So don't look at anyone else's race. Look at your own race and make sure that's going forward. And then the other thing with that too is now each time like I talk to a coach, I'm asking them, what do they need? Hey, coach, I know we have a crazy portal right now, but what are you projecting you think you need in 24, 25, 26? Okay, cool. Hey, coach, you said you're going to have an underclassmen day. Can I send these kids that fit what you guys are looking for? Yeah, coach, I'd love to have them. Okay, cool. Well, I'll get them on the phone with you and you can have an initial conversation with them. So like that's how the recruiting process starts through us. And literally I'm on the phone all day long with college coaches, some other people do some of the help, but everyone ends up calling me back. If it's someone that says Carolina Elite, someone's going to call me and say, hey, I'm talking to this kid. I'm like, okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. Let me know how it goes. So,
hey, David. So Andy wanted to piggyback on that real quick.
Parents, seriously. And you have to be very aware of this. Before you start going to have side conversations with people that think they know what's going on, I'm telling you right now, give David a call. Give him a call or give him a text, because it's going to be much better if you hit him up and it go through him versus somebody having a side conversation, and then it get back to him. Because he's going to be the one who is going to filter out the information us. He's going to tell us, hey, I ain't got time to deal with this right now. Can you call this kid, have them call this person, text this person, do this person? Like, please go through him so this could be a very smooth transaction. But that's it. Right?
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, I guess the last thing before we move on past this is we're going to show you in the next few slides what our process actually looks like. I have seen it. I've been doing this a long time. I have seen coaches and clubs use the recruiting outcome as their reason that you should come and play for somebody else. Come play with us, and by April, we'll have you an offer from NC State, right? I've heard that happen. And then we call NC State's head coach and say, hey, what do you know about this kid? Oh, well, we've been looking at her, but well, are you considering offering her? No, she's not really what we're looking for, right? Like, I mean, but we'll hear people make these claims that they will get the kids these offers if you play somewhere else. But what you have to know is that it's all data driven. Like, they are tracking players, they are tracking progress, and we are too. And so information can be very, very powerful. All right. Here's an example of, so we use a system we built called Copper, and we have every one of our players logged in here. And David can speak to it. David, we got to pick up our tempo a little bit because I don't want to go too long, but tell us what we look at this record for, say, Delilah as an example. What are some of the key things that are important?
Okay, so if you guys can see on this screen, it is a player, player's name, the schools underneath, right underneath it is the schools that's offered her. Below that is serious interest, verified interest. That means I talked to the head coach or the recruiting coordinator, and we've had a conversation about that kid, and they're like, hey, coach, we need to figure out how to get them on campus. All that stuff. And that's something that I do every day. So every time my phone rings it's connected to my phone. Anytime a college calls me, it makes a log of it. So, and then I go back in and make notes for Delilah. I make notes for, anytime I email stuff out for them, it all goes into your kid's record. So, for this, this is a little bit old. She just got a Wofford offer. I would update that in the offer part that's right underneath her name for her to keep it in there,
right.
And go forward.
So one of the things that I think is great about the copper system is that when there is a discussion, a call with a coach, and the kid after the call sends us an email saying, here's what we talked about, that triggers us the opportunity to go in here and put a note that, okay, 3 weeks from now, we're going to do a follow-up. And you can see where it says interactions 15, inactive days. Like, the goal is to maintain activity. Don't go a long period of time with any inactivity. So we track calls, we track visits, we track elite camps, we track college coaches. Now we can also click on any of these schools and we can see all of the kids that they're looking at, right? Which is a valuable tool as well. One of the things we also do, David, you want to explain? So this is sort of like our kind of phishing campaign as well. I mean, it's what I call it. I don't know what you call it, but explain to people what we do with some of our strategic emails.
All right. So right before live periods, I send out different kids. I just picked one of the emails. So I do like an email campaign 2 weeks out. And this is one of the things in July we sent out before. So 24s that you might be interested in. It pulls the coach's name from there. So it doesn't look like, hey, coach, and just a mass email. It's an individual email that I can track how many times they open it, how many times they click on a link, everything. So this one went out, I think it was July, or it was June 30th or July 1st. And it lets the coaches know, like, hey, I know you're not really looking at 25s right now, but here's some kids you need to make sure you know. Why don't you email me back and I'll send you our schedules? So that's how I make sure all our teams get multiple coaches on their court at all times. So two of these kids played on one team, one played on another. And then if there's something that I don't have, aka we didn't have a big tall center this year on 17U, I sent everyone up for Coach Mike up in Virginia to all his games. Anyone that was looking for a post, I'm pushing everyone to Coach Mike for his 17 post.
So that's just one example. There's a lot of different things we do on the recruiting front. I'll move on. You know, this is just what a record for a school would look like. They talk to us about different kids. How often do we talk to them? What are they looking for? A couple things just to note, though. When a college tells us we're looking for a wing in the class of 2025, and let's say you're a point guard in the class of 2025, and you're like, I want to go to that school, and we know they've already filled that slot, like, we're going to tell you, hey, that's great that you want to go there, but like, they've already got somebody in mind there. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a conversation, but we want to direct you to have conversations with schools that have identified we're looking for a point guard in 2025, not a wing or whatever. So that's one thing. Another thing that we do is when a school does identify that one of our kids meets a profile that they're looking for, all of our players are tagged with a bunch of different attributes. So we can real quickly and easily search through all of our players and say, well, wait a minute, here's 3 other players that have similar attributes. Now, we wouldn't necessarily go to the same school that said, hey, we're interested in Susie Smith. But what we might do is send an email with the other 3 girls that have similar attributes to other schools in that same conference and say, hey, we know there is a school in your conference recruiting girls in this range. Do you want to take a look at these kids? So there's just a lot of little things that we do, and it creates a lot of energy and a lot of buzz. And 100 offers this year, I mean, it speaks for itself. We've been real successful with mining the data and really working the phones and the relationships. So I'm going to move on because it's getting late, but that's a lot more detail than any travel basketball club I have ever seen put behind getting their kids recruited. Like, it is a system, and it is working extremely well. Okay, let's switch gears, talk about websites for a minute. So all the kids that have been playing with us for at least 1 full year, by the time they get into their 2nd year, they will have a website. All the player websites are housed on FBCexposure.com. We focus on the older girls and we move downstream. Right now, we are finishing the 2026s. So like all the Gatlin girls will have all their websites done in the next 4 or 5 days, probably. The experiment kids will start to see some websites pop up in the next maybe month or so. But we build these pages for each kid, and the websites are what a lot of the smaller schools would use that don't have big budgets to pay for a recruiting service. But it also gives you a lot of exposure. This is just what the landing page, say for the class of 2026 is. We'd have different kids here. Each one of these is a button. You click on the button, it takes you to the player's website. Now, ladies, players, here's what you need to know. If you know that you are at the age that you should have a website, you need to go look at your website and check it about every 3 to 4 weeks, because content changes. And sometimes, because we don't have a huge staff, sometimes there's something on there that's not right. Sometimes we got the wrong link, or sometimes, you haven't given us an updated GPA in 2 years, right? So you need to look at your websites and make sure that the content there is right. And if it's not, you need to let us know, because that's our checks and balances. Like, that same content that feeds these websites is the content that's linked to our YouTube page, and it's linked to our Copper system. So if a college coach says, hey, you know what, I saw this girl, Ansley Gibson, play, and she kind of stuck out in the game. I really like how she plays. Can you give me more information? Well, we're going to go in our database and we're going to find stuff that we've got tagged for Ansley. But if for some reason we got something tagged wrong, you would see it on your website as wrong, and we would fix it before we send the wrong thing to a college coach. Not that we send very many things wrong, but you need to have checks and balances. So players, once you start having your websites, you need to actually go check them. This is what the actual websites look like in regards to the detail. It'll start out with your name, your stats. It'll have different buttons for scouting reports or social media. It'll have some highlights. It'll have 3 game films. Another thing, ladies, if your game film, we got room to put 3 games. We want to put 3 of your games on there that show off your skill set. We don't want to put 3 games that expose your weaknesses. Sometimes we have games where we got a bad matchup and we play like poop. We don't want a college coach to see that. So look at your websites and make sure the 3 games that we've put up there are like 3 of your best games. And if they're not, you need to email me or David or Andy, or have your coach, like, let's get a different game on there. All right. Because we don't know, we don't have time to go watch all your games, but you need to look at it and make sure what we've putting out there is what you want the world to see. All right. So that's the website stuff. It's a heck of a process to do websites. There's a lot that goes into it, and it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it is a very tedious process. Let me walk you through real quick what has to happen. Okay. So first of all, you have to have a photo shoot in the spring. If we don't have high quality photos, we're not building your website, because we're not putting up stuff that don't look good. So we got to have the photo shoot. In the spring, our media team, which is our video crew, they're coming to shoot sideline, zoomed in on the ball footage, and they save every single clip, April through July. And we store all that film on cloud drives under your individual player number on your team. All right. So by the time we get to summer, we've got thousands of clips across the whole program, and we can go and search by your player name on your team and see the ones that are for you. All right. So we use that content to build highlight mixes, right? We also have one parent on every team shoot huddle. You have to shoot huddle so that we can have the film tag, so we can make highlight mixes that we give to college coaches. There's a difference between a highlight mix that goes to a college coach versus a mix we put on social media. Social media, we're going to have you slow motion dribbling behind your back, looking off at whatever, knocking down a 3, and that took 40 seconds, right? That's not what college coaches want to see. That's what you want your friends to see. We want them to see that too, because you're awesome. But college coaches want to see zoomed out, full court, decision-making, ball movement, what you're doing off the ball, all that kind of stuff. So we have 2 ways to shoot. We have the huddle film that you have to have somebody on your team shoot and upload it. And then we send our media team to do the zoomed in stuff. All right. The recruiting team builds the college highlight mixes. We're doing that behind the scenes on a regular basis. Our media team is making the actual mixtapes and putting them out on social media and getting a lot of hype for you. And then David and the recruiting team send, like, we call them nuggets. Like, you make a really sensational play and a step back, you drop somebody to the floor and you hit a step back 3. That's a nugget. we send that around to college coaches, say, hey, could you use a kid like this? So there's a lot of moving pieces, but you have to check your website on a regular basis to make sure what's there is consistent with what we're aiming to do here. Every player in our program, in our whole organization, should have a Huddle account. We create the Huddle account with the email that you put in your very original player evaluation request form. Like when you first signed up for somebody to consider you to play on one of our teams, you filled in an online form, and that email is the email that your Huddle invitation will go to. If you don't have a Huddle account, or you don't think you have a Huddle account, you need to reach out to me or David or Andy so you can find out what your Huddle account email and password is. Every player in our program gets a Huddle account. Every team has to have somebody to shoot every game to Huddle using the Huddle app on an iPhone, on a Google phone, on an iPad. You can shoot it with anything, but you have to shoot it. And then you got to connect the Wi-Fi and it'll push it up to the Huddle library. And once it's in the Huddle library, these little markers that are on these films right here, those are represented called tags. And any game that hasn't been tagged needs to get tagged, which is where we just go in and we pay Huddle to say, okay, at the 3-minute mark, this kid, did this. At the 3-minute and 4-second mark, this kid did that. It tags all the different sequences. And that's what we use to make college highlight videos for everybody.
On these Huddle tapes, the best person we have in the organization is probably Will Sears. He gets in the middle of the court. He makes sure he pays attention and does this. Parents, I understand you want to watch your kid play basketball. I get it. You pay a lot of money to go to these tournaments and stuff. But whoever is doing the Huddle, if we have, times where you're not on the basketball and I can't see it, and the Huddle people can't tag it because the game's not good, like that's stuff that messes up recruitment, because we're going through this right now where we don't have enough good Huddle tapes to go make Huddle highlights to send to college coaches. So that is a very important part of it. I know it sounds super whiny of me, but I just want to make sure like everyone understands that is a very important part of this process that makes us very different than everyone else.
We'll spend time with the coaches, making sure they know what we need and they can find a person or two on the team to make sure that gets done. But Huddle is very, very, very instrumental in getting our girls recruited. All right, the next thing is our YouTube channel. So we push full game films to YouTube. We push player college mixtapes to YouTube. We even do some of the social media stuff to YouTube. If you're looking for game film that you want to share with somebody or you want to review and you don't want to take the time to go looking through Huddle, you can go to our YouTube channel, search your player's name, or you can search your name if you're a player, and it'll pull up everything that we've loaded up to this point. And so it's a great way for you to see your not your stats, but your game film, your highlight film, so on and so forth. And this is sort of like our hard drive. This is where we store all of our stuff, and it's stored publicly. So, if there's a game that you played utter poop, then maybe let us know and we'll go like delete your name from the metadata so you can't find that game if somebody's searching for it. All right. So, all right, that's the YouTube piece. We have a lot of college coaches actually subscribe to our channel directly too.
And everyone go subscribe to the YouTube channel as well.
Yeah. All right, trying to come down the home stretch here. Just talking about the website and the recruiting process, just a few things you need to know just to outline it. Whoever is recruiting the kids, they're gathering the data by the player name. So like one of our recruiting coordinators, we're gathering data by either the name of the player or the number on your jersey and which colleges are looking at it. So don't change your uniforms. Once you get your uniform, you're in your number. Don't start wearing a different number halfway through the season because that really messes things up. We will tell you at your position in your class of which colleges are looking for kids that play in your position and which ones still have unfilled spots. We gather that information. We know that information. We catalog all of the players' attributes so we can search quickly for kids that meet a certain profile. If a school asks us, do we have any 2026s that can do this or do that? Like we can quickly find that in our database. And then like if one player is picked up and starts to get recruited in a conference, then we'll send similar player data to the other schools in the same conference. We kind of talked about some of this already, so I'll move on past this. Let's talk about the team responsibilities. First thing everybody's got to do, everybody needs to be at the photo shoot March 25th. We still have 3 kids, or some 3 of our best kids in our program that don't have websites because they didn't get to the photo shoot for the last 2 years. Like, I can't build you a website if we don't have good photography. Like, we're not putting out garbage looking stuff. So that's important. Get to the photo shoot. Make sure a parent films every game on Huddle. Some coaches are using some of this other new technology that, you know, I know Coach Jason's got a camera, it can hang from the ceiling and it does everything. That's great. But we needed to be on Huddle so we can build college recruiting film. And we needed to be able to be at 7th grade because that's when they'll start looking at it, right? I can't get that from these other services. It needs to be on our Huddle system. If you are uploading Huddle, somebody needs to log in a few days after you've uploaded it and make sure it got tagged. If it didn't, it needs to get tagged. You need to check the YouTube channel for your team games. About 2 weeks after you play, your game should be on YouTube. If you go 2 or 3 weeks and your game's on YouTube, it means somebody dropped the ball. And that deserves a phone call or an email saying, hey, how come our games aren't on YouTube? Like, let us know. Because sometimes we just get overloaded and something drops between the cracks and we don't figure it out for months. So check YouTube for your games. Players, I reiterate, check your websites. Once you have one, make sure the stuff on it is right. Because sometimes it's not. Sometimes it gets the wrong link or something. So if you have like some game film, or you have some highlights, or you have an updated transcript, or maybe something is just needs to be changed on your information, you can use the evaluation form on the Carolina Elite website to upload new stuff. All right. So I think I have a screenshot. So right on, this is a picture of our homepage, and where I've circled here in blue, that's a button, and it says upload player profile. If you click on that button and you scroll down this page, there's a button here you can upload. So if you want to send us some more film, maybe from your high school team, maybe you were in the world champion 3v3 championships and you got 100 points. I don't know what you got, but if you got film that can help us show colleges what you can do, you can fill out the form again and just put new information and hit that upload button, and it'll send it to us and we'll upload it to your website. All right. So that's the homepage, upload player profile. This is about halfway down the page. Upload your new information. Okay.